Let's pop you over straight to the Cape Town International Convention Centre. President Cyril Ramaphosa delivering the African Union-AIP Water Investment Summit keynote address. Let's listen in.
Your Excellency, President Kikwete, the former President of the Republic of Tanzania, distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed an honor to welcome you all to Cape Town for the official opening of the Africa Water Investment Summit. This summit is a landmark moment, not only for Africa, but for the global movement for access to safe water for all. It is really pleasing to see so many people gathered here to come and discuss the issue of water on our continent. Gathered here are people who are in government, as ministers, as premiers, as deputy ministers, as mayors, and also as legislators, members of parliament. But gathered here are also people who are potential investors in water, and that is why this is dubbed an investment summit on water. As we walked in, I had a sense that indeed we have a lot of investors here, and I could smell money. I could feel money, and I hope you brought money here. We gather here as decision makers, as investors, as financiers, and as champions at a time when the world faces a deepening water crisis. Yet this is also at a moment of immense opportunity. Immense opportunity because if we are able to rise together, water can become not just a means of survival, but a driver of economic transformation, innovation, and peace. This summit is rooted in a journey that began nearly a decade ago. In 2016, the high-level panel of water was launched by the then UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who addressed us a little while ago on video, as well as the World Bank President Jim Kum-yong. At this event 9 years ago, 11 heads of state came together to rethink how the world should approach the challenge of water. Following their recommendations, the African Union established the Africa Water Investment Program and the International High-Level Panel on Water Investments for Africa. The panels set us the task to mobilize at least $30 billion a year by 2030 to close Africa's water investment gap. Now, earlier as we were meeting, President Kikwete, who has been involved in this whole process, was briefing us on how, having been involved right from the beginning, how this whole process has evolved to come to this point, and we are truly delighted to have President Kikwete with us today, continuing to be a true champion as co-chair of this whole water process. And let us give President Kikwete a round of applause. South Africa is proud to be a founding member of this panel and to answer the call to host this Africa Water Investment Summit in the context of our G20 presidency. We are gathered here at this summit with 4 clear goals. Firstly, to endorse a summit declaration that commits us to scale up investments, to improve governance, and to increase accountability in the water sector. And underline, to increase accountability. Secondly, we are also gathered here to showcase a pipeline of 80 priority investment projects from 38 countries. Thirdly, to facilitate matchmaking between governments, financiers, and various partners. And fourthly, we are also gathered here to position water at the highest level of the global political and financial agenda, from G20 and COP30 to the UN 2026 Water Conference and beyond. So you can see that our goals are clear. Our intention is also very clear. But today we are going even further. We are witnessing the launch of the Global Outlook Council on Water Investments, which is a G20 presidential legacy initiative. We are bringing, yes, we can applaud for that as well. We are bringing Africa and international partners together and calling on investors to heed the call to invest in water. Quite often when investment takes place, water is always relegated to the back. We are now bringing water, an essential process that sustains our lives, to the fore, to make sure that water is clearly put on the investment agenda. The launch of the Global Outlook Council on Water Investments will see the Africa Water Investment Program being scaled up into a global water investment platform. I would like to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for initiating the first G20 Water Dialogue when it was president of the G20 in 2020, which considered water as a key ingredient for socio-economic development, poverty alleviation, human health, and well-being. Let us give Saudi Arabia a round of applause. This process was sustained by the subsequent G20 presidencies of Italy in 2021, Indonesia in 2022, India in 2023, and Brazil in 2024, having been initiated, as I said, by Saudi Arabia in 2020. And now South Africa, as the current G20 president, in partnership with the African Union and the Africa Investments Panel, recognizes it as the AU-AIP Water Investment Summit. As we have often said, South Africa in its G20 presidency sees this G20 presidency as a presidency for Africa. And that is why we have positioned the AU as being part of our G20 presidency, because South Africa is an African country, and therefore we are bound to put Africa on the map of the global community, and it is for this reason that we have dubbed it an AU type of project. Now, the Global Outlook Council and the Global Water Investment Platform will serve as the world's premier high-level political and investment platform on water. It will track progress, unlock finance, report annually, and align efforts across the G20, the UN, multilateral development banks, and the private sector. We will, through this process, be able to have accountability to see whether progress is being made on investments in water. It will also mobilize the leadership, the capital, and also innovation that is required to transform water from a crisis sector into an opportunity sector. Last week, we were able to demonstrate the capacity and appetite of Africa on mega, really big projects, investments here in South Africa when I launched the second phase of a massive water project, purification plant in the province of Gauteng. This plant is part of a development that will supply an extra 600 million liters of water a day to address the growing water demand across 4 of our South African provinces. This flagship project is a demonstration of our government's commitment to infrastructure investment, economic upliftment, and also ensuring sustainable water supply for future generations. This project, now the 600 million liters a day, adds to the 4,400 liters a day. Altogether, the project will be delivering 5,000 million liters a day of water into those 4 provinces. That is a massive project. We are looking forward to the alignment of the Global Outlook Council initiative with the investment theme of the 2026 United Nations Water Conference to ensure availability and sustainability management of water and sanitation for all. I am pleased to acknowledge the invited leaders that will work with the South African G20 presidency as co-chair in the leadership of this council. And they are President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan of the United Arab Emirates, Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, Mr. Bill Gates, the co-chair of the Gates Foundation. Now, these distinguished leaders will be assisted by alternative co-chairs as facilitators for effective broad engagement of the council members represented by my dear brother and sister, President Jakaya Kikwete, former president of Tanzania, as I said, and Her Excellency Amina Mohammed, the UN Deputy Secretary General. Now, it is a great honor to inaugurate the following invited leaders as council members: President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva of Brazil, President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese of Australia, Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom, Chancellor Friedrich Merz of Germany, and Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy, and President Ursula von der Leyen of the European Commission, President João Lorenzo of Angola and African Union Chair, and President Bassirou Faye of Senegal, who is co-host of the UN 2026 Water Conference. Now, this council will be supported by a group of global leaders who will serve as council champions. Now, I wish to applaud these leaders who have really stepped up to confront and overcome a challenge faced by billions of people across the world when it comes to the need of water. The Council will guide the transition from what I would call fragmented water investments to a more coherent, coordinated, and capitalized global effort through the Global Water Investment Platform. So today, we can clearly say, given all these efforts, given all the people that have stepped forward to do something about water, we can clearly say that water must no longer be an afterthought at climate and finance discussions. It must be at the center of discussions. It must be financed, it must be tracked in terms of whether progress is being made or not, and it must be championed. And therefore, I would say we should give a rousing round of applause for all these council members who I have referred to for having stepped forward. Let us applaud them all. We applaud them because they are traversing a path that has least been traversed in the world. They are bringing our attention and our focus on water. Water, as I said, has always been relegated to the back, and yet it is what all of us as human beings need, not on a weekly basis, monthly basis, but on a daily and hourly basis. We all need water. And we are pleased that these leaders have stepped forward to pay attention to this. So I would like Your Excellencies and honored delegates and guests, I would like to say we should leave this summit having achieved a number of objectives. We should leave this summit having arrived at deals, having identified pipelines, having struck partnerships, and also having put together a permanent global mechanism to sustain the momentum that is now rising, not only here on our continent, but globally as well, on the issue of water. The matchmaking sessions that are planned for this summit should create long-lasting partnerships as well as increased investment in water. Those of you who may have come here just to be tourists in beautiful Cape Town, I would like you to turn your eyes and your attention to focus on investing in water. It is important that we should build a world where every drop of water counts and every community thrives because of access to water. We should build a world where water is recognized as a human right and not weaponized against women, children, and communities. I raise the issue of women advisedly because in the end, particularly on our continent, it is women who bear the brunt of lack of access to water. And we need to endow the women of our continent with dignity, with respect, and make sure that they have access to good water. It is my honor and pleasure, therefore, to officially open the Africa Water Investment Summit and launch the Global Outlook Council on Water Investments. And in the words of the founding president of our democracy, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela said, "It is now in your hands. Let the work begin of making sure that we invest in water and we make water the number one key objective of sustaining livelihoods, of powering our economic growth, and in doing so, let us leave no one behind and no country behind." Thank you.
And with those words, the African Union-AIP Water Investment Summit 2025 has officially begun. It's a three-day summit, I beg your pardon, set to last until Friday. President Cyril Ramaphosa welcoming a number of heads of states, which in some cases are represented on that stage. He's really emphasized the need for discussions around water to be centralized. And in case you're struggling to place this particular summit, it's essentially aimed at trying to fill the gap, the infrastructure investment gap, which stands at about $30 billion US. The summit is also aimed at mobilizing investments in climate resilience project and ensure that at the very least there's water security, which hopefully leads to economic growth and sustainable development across the country or the continent. Ramaphosa is saying in part that we must make sure that nobody leaves behind. In fact, calling on delegates at the summit to strike partnerships that will ultimately lead to some kind of momentum. As I mentioned, he's also called for water no longer to be placed at the back burner whenever there's discussions around climate resilience, but to be a whole lot more centralized than it has been in the past.